The following program is made possible by Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Our peninsula is in the midst of a booming economy. Why has it happened, and will it last?
We asked two of the community's top business leaders. The game is business. The game is on.
Hi, I'm Kevin Mullen.
And I'm Mark Simon. Welcome to the game.
In just 10 years, an economic boom has transformed the peninsula into an urbanized center of jobs and major employers intent on growing in place. The county has the lowest unemployment rate in the state, perhaps in the nation. Normally, this is good news, but along with this has come choking traffic and skyrocketing housing costs. Can we stand success?
And are we in danger of killing the boom? To understand how we got where we are and where we might be going, we're being joined by two of the region's leading business leaders. Isn't that nice? Rosanne Foust, President and CEO of San Mateo County Economic Development Association, or Samceda, and Amy Buckmaster, President and CEO of the San Mateo County Redwood City Chamber of Commerce. Thank you both for being here. Let's start with how did we get here? We have this incredible economy, 2% unemployment. We've got choking traffic and rising housing costs. We'll get into that a little bit later. But what are the origins of this incredible boom we're having here?
San Mateo County is the heart, truly, of Silicon Valley. If you think about its location between San Francisco and San Jose, between the East Bay and the coast side, we are the location with educational institutions, with a quality of life that truly, even with traffic and the housing costs, is unsurpassed anywhere else. People want to be here. That's how we got here.
Yeah. Amy, your organization runs a broad gamut from small business to the biggest businesses possible. How has that profile of the chamber and its memberships changed as a result of this boom?
Well, I think, like you said, our organization's almost going to be about 120 years old, so we're pretty strong, and we've been around quite a while. And what I find is the success did not come in overnight. This has been years of vision and planning, and I find myself referencing many archives, like I brought today with me, of the past decades of the chamber has been involved in basically the mission and the vision is to promote the economy, a thriving economy, and a business economy. But what I've found is over the course of the decades, the term business has changed. There's many dynamics. It used to be your brick and mortar type businesses. Now, a thriving economy includes public agencies, education, nonprofits. Our organization has over 60 nonprofits within it. We're finding that it's the technology industry, it's bringing everybody healthcare. The educational institution is one of our largest members. We have which is very rare, we have probably 25 educational institutions within our organization. Every elementary school in Redwood City is actually a member of our chamber. So it's a course of history, collaboration, working together.
Give me an idea of say, who the largest 2 or 3 employers were 20 years ago and who they are now, and the relative size of each of them compared to then and now.
So 20 years ago, we had the Oracle. You started to see some of the technology companies coming in. Electronic Arts was one of the companies that was making their start into Redwood City, making their corporate headquarter. We also had larger employers like a Raycam, who was established a long time ago. We had Ampex. Now now that is the site where Sequoia or Stanford Hospital is. So you're really starting to see the garbage company, BFI was it's now Recology. They were one of the largest employers. The county is still one of the largest employers, and they were 20 years ago, San Mateo County. United Airlines, but I think what we're seeing now is you have the largest employers are becoming technology companies, Facebook, Google, Genentech. These are your larger employees we're starting to see.
So when you hear the term Silicon Valley, traditionally the thought was Santa Clara County, maybe down towards San Jose. But if you actually look at that map, there's so many of those large employers right here in our county. but we're dealing with all of the byproducts of this economic success. So Rosanne, talk about that. You know, it seems like not a show goes by that we don't talk about the affordable housing crunch and the transportation mobility challenges we have with so many jobs being created. Hand over fist, 19 jobs for every one housing unit. How are we grappling with all of this? And it's really hard to imagine that the economy even getting hotter than it is, but there's no sign of a recession yet, and we are just really in the midst of dealing with all of these byproducts.
I think, too, the base of the companies has changed. Back in 2001 and 2003, when that recession hit, those companies didn't have the type of depth that we're seeing now with the companies that are out there. And I think of Gilead, I think of Visa, I think of Walmart and YouTube, and Robert Half, people don't realize, is one of the largest employers. I mean, that's a recruitment firm. So what's happening is these companies are getting engaged in the community-wide issues on housing and transportation. They're sitting on task forces. They're contributing money to the EIR process for the 101 Managed Lanes project. $3 million of private donations came in for that. $50 million in private donations are committed for the eventual build-out of a carpool lane between Whipple and 380. That didn't happen 20 years ago when companies weren't necessarily, they were employing people and they were thinking about our nonprofits, but they weren't in public infrastructure projects. Right. You have Facebook that entered into an agreement with the San Mateo County Transit District to explore what could be possible on the Dumbarton Rail. This is unprecedented, and I think this is our future.
Is it, so how much are we dealing with the challenges of success? And I think that's really what Kevin was alluding to. We've got traffic, we've got housing costs that are transforming our community, and not necessarily, people would say, in a good way. How big a challenge is that? How much of a problem are things like traffic and housing? How much of a threat are they to this sort of continuing economic success, Amy?
I'm concerned about that. We survey our members quite a bit, and the top issues that they're facing is really the top three is transportation, it's housing supply, and also the recruitment of talent. We're finding that a lot of our members across the board, especially one of the areas that people I don't think are aware of, is the healthcare industry. It is very hard to retain talent and keep them. They can get the doctors per se, the physicians, the nurses, they will come to the area, they will get their training, but they will leave because they would like to buy a home. They cannot afford a home. These are top doctors that cannot afford homes in San Mateo County. And that's an issue we're really seeing across the board. And it's a concern for me. And I'm positive, though, because we are starting to see that the government agencies like San Mateo County took the lead 2 years ago with the Home for All initiative. I think we're all we know that we are a product of our success, but I'm very concerned, and I think our businesses are concerned, that we don't want the businesses to start to leave the area because of talent. I think talent is one of the key things. They're having trouble recruiting talent to stay here.
We're going to take a quick break. Stick around, we'll be right back.
It's been over 150 years since Wells Fargo first opened for business. Since then, we've enjoyed your community support, and we're passionate about returning it. Every day, Wells Fargo team members roll up their sleeves and donate their time to organizations and charitable groups throughout the Bay Area. Nationally, we've committed even more. In just the past 2 years alone, we've donated over $70 million to support schools and educational programs. It's a commitment we're proud of. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Welcome back. I'm Mark Simon. He's Kevin Mullen, still. Over here we have Rosanne Foust, who's President and CEO of Samceda, and Amy Buckmaster, President and CEO of the Redwood City, San Mateo County Chamber of Commerce. We're talking about the challenges of success. There is a sentiment among some people that private business ought to pay to fix these problems. They created them. That the reason we have this horrendous traffic is because they're building, because because we don't have an infrastructure that looks like it supports the kind of boom that we're having. Is that a fair criticism?
No, actually, it's not. And I find myself struggling because as a 23-year resident of San Mateo County, I get it. Change is very difficult. But I also heard the people in 2001 and 3 and again in 2007 and 8 saying, what are you doing about job creation? Why aren't you bringing more companies here? What are we doing about the companies that are leaving? And the fact you could get anywhere in 20 minutes. They didn't like that. They didn't like dead downtowns. They didn't like empty stores at Hillsdale. So here we have the flip side now. Yes, it's a challenge, but I was in the Midwest last week and 6 of us went out to breakfast and I think it was $50. I mean, I looked at the people in the diner and I said to myself, I'm really lucky. I am really lucky to live where I do, experience what I have, and here's people in a very different economic future, and that I'm concerned about.
What are your thoughts on this subject, Amy? Should business be holding up more of its end than it is? Is it to blame for the problems we've got?
Not at all. They have been holding up their end for a while, for many years. Businesses, you know, I think one of the things I agree with you when you talk about, you know, being in Chicago. I was in New York a week ago, and the prices for eating in New York City for dinner for 4 people, and I remember looking at the bill going, oh my gosh, this is so cheap. So that's scary. You know, that's where we're starting to become a very expensive city to be in. And so I agree. Business is not to blame on any of this. Business is thriving right now.
But it sounds like what you're saying is we're not the sleepy suburbs anymore. We're
No,
urban center.
we're not.
Get over it.
I'm going to talk about, I love to see the revitalization in downtowns. I'm very passionate about it. I was born in Chicago, moved here when I was 6 months old. So I'd like to say I'm a pretty local San Mateo County kid. Grew up in San Carlos. And I remember these downtowns. They were sleepy and they were dead. And I don't mean to use that word, but it really was Redwood City. And referencing Redwood City. Today, it is packed, and I love to see that. I love to see cross-generational people in downtown Redwood City. You have your youth, you have your seniors, you have your young millennials moving into the area. They've got their dogs, their kids, their strollers. They are out on the streets. That is a sign to me of a healthy community, and I love to see that passion. And I know there are those naysayers, but just spend an evening in downtown Redwood City or San Mateo or San Carlos. These communities are coming alive, and they're starting to show the diversity of these communities. It's not just, you know, these aren't bedroom communities anymore.
And I think we have to remember that the people that work for these companies, they're our friends and neighbors. They're our community members. They're on our boards, committees, and commissions. They're donating to our nonprofits. They are a part of the fabric of today and the future. They're not these people that just fly in and work and leave. People forget that. They're here.
They're giving back to their community. One of the things that I love to see is we have, in downtown Redwood City, Facebook, they have quite a few of their employees who live in Redwood City. They are not name only. They are involved in their community. They are, like you said, they're on boards and commissions. They're giving to the downtown community. They're shopping, they're eating, they are a part of it. The first thing, one of the things I love to see now when they do interviews for many of these companies, most of the people who are interviewing, the recruits, they are asking, what's your social give back platform? You would have never seen that 20 years ago. That is fantastic.
So let's talk about this notion of San Mateo County identity. We don't have one major city, one big city. Redwood City is sort of as the county seat, a very visible city among the constellation of cities in the county. But I've heard the comment that San Mateo County punches below its weight, meaning there's all of this economic activity happening. A boom is happening right here. Global companies are housed here, but it's coming up sort of against that tension of the history of it being a bedroom kind of a community, but it really is an urbanized area. So just talk a little bit about those dynamics as leaders in the business community. When you're out talking to people from the region or the state about what's happening here in San Mateo County, is there a recognition of all that is happening from a dynamic standpoint here in our county?
Well, you see 4 people around this table that actually are vocal supporters of what San Mateo County brings to the region. I mean, there isn't one regional meeting that I go to where I don't talk about hitting above our weight, so to speak, because I do think people tend to sometimes forget. And I think it is in our best interests as business leaders, as an elected state assembly member, as someone who has lived in this community, worked at public agencies, been writing, we have to tell our story. We have to tell it often, better, and just keep that awareness out there, because we are really the linchpin that holds it all together. There are 9 counties in the Bay Area. Nobody's going to forget San Mateo County, at least on my watch. So I'm just hugely out there talking about it and saying, think about Sand Hill Road, think about South San Francisco. I mean, for me, living in Redwood City, I love what we've done. I was a part of it. But I love seeing what's happening in South San Francisco. I love the discussions in San Mateo. I drive up El Camino pretty regularly. I love what San Bruno is doing. I mean, there is a lot of exciting things happening in these 20 different communities, and I think we just have to support it.
So really what you're saying is it's a matter of these changes are going to take place. We're just going to have to learn how to adjust to them.
I think it would be a better way to say, how can we all embrace it? Not adjust to it, but actually embrace it and let it become a part of us. I think that there are more people, frankly, happier in our communities about what's happening. The negative voices tend to speak the loudest. Happy people don't come out, because guess what happy people are doing? They're out eating, they're going to the movies, they're shopping, they're working, they're out in our parks, they're recreating, they're doing a whole host of things. They're not coming to our city council meetings saying, hey, get a grip, get a clue, stop doing this. Yeah. They're not there.
Let me stop you there. But only because we're going to take a short break. Stick around, we'll be right back.
It's been over 150 years since Wells Fargo first opened for business. Since then, we've enjoyed your community support, and we're passionate about returning it. Every day, Wells Fargo team members roll up their sleeves and donate their time to organizations and charitable groups throughout the Bay Area. Nationally, we've committed even more. In just the past 2 years alone, we've donated over $70 million to support schools and educational programs. It's a commitment we're proud of. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Welcome back. I'm Mark Simon. This is Kevin Mullen. Over here we have Rosanne Foust, President and CEO of Samceda, and Amy Buckmaster, President and CEO of the Redwood City San Mateo County Chamber of Commerce. At the beginning of the show, we asked the question, are we at risk of killing the boom? There are people who are pushing back on things like building height, building density in transit corridors and along major corridors. There are people who are unhappy with the changes, and as Rosanne was alluding to, they show up at city council meetings and they say, don't do this anymore. Is there a risk that we can kill this between the traffic congestion we have, the housing costs, and the resistance to some of the changes that are taking place, Amy?
I'm concerned about it, but I think we have to really stay positive. I really think it's going to come down to, especially with housing and transportation and on a local level, especially in the housing and the height limits, things like that. It's really going to come down to political will of council members, local on our state or city councils. I get concerned when I'm at a city council meeting across the board and I see council members who vote no on housing. Anytime someone votes no on housing, that's really, to me, a stab in the heart, because that breaks my heart, because I know that's denying opportunity for future residents to live in San Mateo County, especially with height limits too. We need to go up. I look at the project in San Carlos and I know it's wonderful and it's on the transportation corridor, but I believe, if I'm correct, it came down in height.
It was supposed to be 5, it's now 3.
Yeah, so think about that. That's 2.
I actually had to advocate for that program.
So those are heartbreaking, because we had a project in Redwood City that was denied. The owner decided to pull their project, and that would have brought affordable housing for Redwood City. I believe it's about 150 units, and it was going to be at below market rate. I mean, we're looking at, and those are losses, and that's so critical.
We had John Welpe on a prior show, and he said he didn't think that we could ever really fix the housing problem, that at best we can just sort of nibble at the edges because the dynamics that are driving it are so profound, and we're not likely to open up open space, for example, or find places where we're going to build. Do you think that's accurate? Do you think that we're just going to become an increasingly expensive housing enclave?
I think what we have to work towards is better than a 19-to-1 jobs housing. Will it ever be a 1-to-1? Absolutely not.
No.
I mean, I don't think in any of our lifetimes, and I'm not sure that that's what people want. Could it become 1 in 10? Possibly. I mean, it will stay expensive. 75% of San Mateo County is protected open space. But there are a lot of opportunities along our transit corridor and El Camino and in certain pockets around downtowns. No one is suggesting to build in single-family home neighborhoods. I have never heard that. Samceda is in the process of actually taking all the zoning from the 20 cities. We have a map from 1993, which shows the zoning. So you have all the green for the open space, all the yellow single-family homes, and then where possible development could go. So we're updating that. I think that will be an incredibly powerful visual to actually show our residents, show our community members who live here. No one's talking about building in this area. But what we need is, I want my children to be able to come back and live here. They're not right now, and we'll see what happens.
So broader economic prognosis just this week, Facebook stock took a hit, 119 billion. Analysts are saying it's a little bit of a blip. It's not if you
That's a hell of a blip.
there. But there are some warning signs out there, some clouds on the horizon. We haven't repealed the business cycle. A recession will happen at some point, but what are you both hearing sort of on the ground from business owners? Are they still in growth mode? Are they still in hiring mode? Or is there reticence at sort of where the next phase will?
And can it last?
They're still hiring. And when I alluded to before that the companies are different now, it's called a churn factor. So with companies that are either dying or being merged or moving on, there's new companies coming to take their place. I was looking at the list of large employers in the county, and I was thinking to myself, 10 years ago, you didn't have YouTube, or it was at its nascent. You didn't have Walmart.com. Franklin Resources has been around maybe 20 years. I mean, think about it. GoPro, Equinix, which is a back-end internet company. So think about the new companies that are coming in. Every year we do our Innovators program where we highlight innovative companies, not necessarily startups. So companies are still hiring. There's a lot, thousands of job requisitions out there. I mean, yes, all the economists say there's going to be a slowdown. Will it be what it was like in 2007-8? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
One of the things I think that people think about is with the dot-com boom followed by the dot-com bust, are these companies more diverse within themselves now than they used to be?
Oh, I definitely agree. A statistic I just received with the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They come to Redwood City. They made that their home. They will be, in November of 2019, the second largest employer in downtown Redwood City, besides the San Mateo County. That's a whole different issue. That's a nonprofit.
Which is funded by an endowment.
Funded by an endowment of two. So that is a whole different bailiwick. We would never see that 20 years ago, you know, an institution being the top employer.
Is the political environment good for business? I mean, you've referenced your concern at some city councils. Generally speaking, is San Mateo County politics pro-business?
I think it used to be. I'd like to think in certain pockets it still is. It's up to us to encourage that pro-business mentality, because I do believe council members, they want to please everyone. And you can't please everyone. You just can't. And sometimes you have to make the hard decisions. And that's okay. But you also have to make the decision within yourself. Do I want to be reelected, or do I want to do what's right? And that's a choice that every single elected official has to make. And I think from a business perspective, I want to believe that there are still pro-business council members out there, and I work with them, and I'll continue to work with them.
Amy, what do your members say?
I definitely, there's concern from our members, but I also have to be, I'm so positive in the relationship that our chamber has with working with elected officials. We're celebrating our 50th year of the Progress Seminar, and that started in 1969, and it was basically bringing elected officials and business together to converge on different breakout topics that are facing San Mateo County and working together. And I'm sitting at the table with 3 people who have been part of it for many years and are the solutions to our issues in San Mateo County. I'm going to be very honest, our organization could not do what we're doing without the support of Assemblymember Mullen, with Mark Simon back when your reporter days covering the Progress Seminar, Rosanne Foust being our anchor leader in San Mateo County. So I really see that business and government can work together. I'm starting to see the positivity of it, but there is a new factor that it's really watching some of these elected officials worry about getting in and getting reelected and not worrying about doing the job they're doing in the community that they were elected for.
And we're going to have to stop there. We're out of time. Rosanne Foust, Amy Buckmaster, thank you both for being with us. And I'm Mark Simon.
I'm Kevin Mullen.
Thanks for joining us, and join us next time on The Game.